Psychoanalysis is the true Christianity. Where Jesus failed, Freud will succeed as the new Jesus. Only a portion of the Jewish people accepted the new doctrine. Those who refused are still called Jews today, which is why we have anti-Semitism, because there's still Jews around who say, I don't accept this doctrine. Owing to this cleavage, they have become even more sharply divided from other people than before. They were obliged to hear the new religious community reproach them with having murdered God. The old story of murdering the Father, right, is the story now that Christianity uses against the Jews. You murdered God. In full, the reproach would be as follows, and this is the key. And he puts it in quotes. This is a Christian speaking. They will not accept it as true that they murdered God, whereas we admit it and have been cleansed of that guilt. That is the secret of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is Christians saying, I admit that I have killed God. I admit it. And I'm cleansed. I admit that I killed God, the Father, and it's okay for me to admit that I killed God the Father. Why? Because God the Son has cleansed me of my guilt of killing, of patricide. Jesus has made it okay for me to kill the Father. Right? Whereas the Jews, the problem with the Jews is that they don't even admit that they've killed the Father. They have not even come to terms with that. They refuse to admit that they've killed the Father. That's their problem, and that's why we hate them. Because in their refusal to admit that they killed the Father, they maintain this image of the Father. What does it mean to refuse to admit that they killed the Father? They maintain this superego image. And by maintaining the superego image, of course, they are maintaining the horrible guilt under which we all live. The Jews, so long as Jews are still around, humanity has to feel guilty. The Hebrew word Torah, when it was translated into Greek, and this is most importantly, you see this in the letters of Paul. How does Paul translate the Hebrew word Torah? Does anybody know? You know the Greek word? I'll write it out in Greek and then in English. The Greek word for it is nomos. Nomos. Nomos, which means law. Yeah. Which in English, to this day, of course, Christians, when they're reading the Bible, they're reading the Old Testament, they will say the law. What is the law? The law is a translation of Torah. The law of Moses. Where did they get this idea? Well, I mean, nomos, okay, it's the Greek word nomos, but where did they get that idea that's nomos? Where did they get this idea that it's the law? It's an idea that Paul promulgates. Of course, there is such a thing as law in the Torah. The Torah does have many mishpatim. But mishpat is only one aspect of Torah. So we speak of Torot mishpatim in this last parsha, right? Torot mishpatim chukim. There's different words that we use. But the simple translation of Torah is, of course, teaching. That's what the word Torah means, teaching, which is why the word moreh, which has the same root, means teacher. Just right, moreh and Torah, same word. It's a teacher. The Torah is a teaching. Within this teaching, there are aspects of it which are legal, law, and which are strict, and so on. But there's much more to the teaching than that. Much more than law. And certainly for us, law and mercy, or strict justice, din and rachamim always go together. They're always balanced with each other. Christianity did this very weird move on Judaism. It recognized very early that mercy and love and grace is much nicer than din. Who doesn't know that? Everybody knows that love and grace and compassion are nicer than justice. So Christianity said right from the beginning, you know what? We are the religion of mercy, love, and grace. That's what Jesus is all about. It's all love. It's all love. And since we are all love, and clearly the Torah is not, so it must mean that the Torah is the opposite of love. The Torah is all about law and justice and deed. That's what it's about. The God of the Old Testament, the Father God, right? The Father, the angry Father who's always punishing his children. And that's why we need to eliminate the Jews, because once we eliminate the Jews, we will eliminate this idea of guilt, and we can all live free and happy, and we can all live under the happy good news that Jesus has redeemed us from this, and we can be free from this horrible guilt that the Jews have imposed upon us. So long as the Jews are around, we will live in this horrific guilt of civilization. And that's why we need to kill them. You see, Freud is he's playing a dangerous game here, right? On the one hand, he's giving a very nice description psychologically of what the Jews constitute in Western civilization. On the other hand, there's this subtext implication that Freud actually agrees with the Christians. Because he doesn't agree that we should kill the Jews, of course, but he does agree with Christianity that we should eliminate somehow, we should undermine this God the Father religion. We do need to get rid of it somehow. Because Freud never really confronts any version of Judaism that is not this heavy God the Father, God the lawgiver, the nomos God. He never sees anything beyond that. He never sees beyond a Christian concept of Judaism. And therefore, he's sympathetic with the Christian desire to get rid of Judaism, even though at the same time he does understand that Christianity is too easy. I would dare to say that for Freud, psychoanalysis is the true Christianity. Freud would like to replace the Christian effort with psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis is a superior form of Christianity. Insofar as Christianity is an attempt to overcome Judaism and fails, psychoanalysis is a better hope for overcoming Judaism. So really Freud is Jesus. Freud is a better Jesus than Jesus. Where Jesus failed, Freud will succeed as the new Jesus. Psychoanalysis is the true good news. It's the new good news, the new gospel, which will finally eliminate Judaism, finally come to terms with what's wrong with Judaism. Which is probably why Freud's last book is this confrontation with Moses. It's his final swan song attempt to deal with the problem of Moses.